Hello, everyone, and welcome to the latest edition of the Independent Activist with me, Fra Hughes. And I'm here with Omar, who's a Palestinian part of the diaspora, a person forced into exile, now living in Europe. Omar, we met in 2010 when I was lucky enough to go on George Galloway's Viva Palestina land convoy in September, October 210. We first met there. Do you want to give me an update? Now, that's 15 years. That's a long time. But you're originally born in Palestine. So maybe tell us a wee bit about what it was like growing up under occupation and how you've ended up in Europe today.
Yeah, it's quite a long time, but it's not quite long time than the decades of colonization start since the Britain and Sykes-Picot and Declaration of Balfour until they bring the colon Zionist project to Palestine, and since 1948, Palestinian people being subjugated for ethnic cleansing, genocide, Nakba after Nakba, until Deriyatin, Sabra, Shatila, Tartuha, until the last 20 years of Gaza, an open prison, and a Holocaust being attacking every couple of months. Today we arrive to a big genocide, which all the world and life they were seeing and watching from Gaza, which is no any single uh, could be or like an reason to make a people say this is not the truth. What is Palestinian being subjugated since 80 years, and now we see the truth face of this Zionist colonial settler projects in Palestine and in Middle East, trying just a monster to killing more civilian Palestinian. We meet you as you've been part of the convoys to broke the siege in Gaza in 2010, which was like take us many years to try to call the international world and international communities and Western to stop this genocide, to stop killing Palestinian. But there were few people, they were hearing us and they were trying to come. And they were like, even interceptions many times in many countries, in Libya and different countries. But you are one of the people could success to come to Gaza and see the truth. How is Gaza and people and Palestinian? And I guess this is also you've been living for many years, and you know the Palestinian history. You know how it's mean the colonization and how it's very bad for the people and original people that you lived yourself as a Irish, and you know exactly how things happening behind the doors and how is the propaganda and the Britain being a partner of this crime for a long time. So today, the international world, I've been there like just a young person, but I born as any Palestinian. I feel and I see my family, my father being get arrested, like when I was like really few years, and this is like trauma still in my mind, and it's affected every single Palestinian until today, and every single child he have a big stories than like professor around the world to tell what they are being subjugated over traumas and genocide, ethnic cleansing and massacres for since they've been very young. So this is the story and history now. It's not need to say to the people that the history and what is going on, because now in the modern century, in our lifetime, this is genocide. We're not reading about Vietnam's or about original American people. We see it by our eyes, and we see how is the double standard of Western and American and Canadian, Australian, where they've been acting to different uh, let's say it's not a genocide, it's a civil war, or it's a wars between countries, which is not colonized or occupied, but their own interest was very high to be standing for them own business than to stand for humanity. And it's Gaza the same example what's going on in Ukraine, and they sanction in the fourth day of the war. They sanction Russia, they sanction Iran. They're trying to stop this, and they put million and billion of money just to create more wars. But in Palestine, they always say we don't want to war, we want to bring peace. But we see the Western, they starting this war since Hiroshima, Nagasaki, Vietnamese, Iraq, Afghanistan, Syria, Lebanon, Libya, South Africa, and it's still going on until today. And even with the new presidency of Trump, they're trying to do the big mafia by legal way, and they're trying them power to do it as an international power, which they are very complicit and a criminal by a classic jackets. And we see it how they are doing in Venezuela and how they're trying to take things for they are not belong, and they try to put them power and interest and money to just like make other country weaker. But I hope that international community today is very big. The voice of people start to be wake up. We have a big international calls, which we see in how many activists, and you've been also this time one of the activists. They were trying to carry a humanitarian aid to broke a siege after 20 years of close Gaza as an open prison. After all this, more than 2 years, 730 days being Palestinian subjugated in life for this genocide. And for me, as a personally, I don't like to speak about myself and my family because Palestine is very small. 365 kilometers being the name of humanity and call for freedom since many, many years. But tons of, of this massive attack being under subject under this genocide and massacre been been many times since 2007. Every couple of months, thousands of Palestinians being killed just because they are Palestinian. And this genocide, even they try to call every international activist to speak, and they try to call every doctor to come to Gaza, every journalist. But this and colonization project, they not allowed the international voice to come, and they made Palestinian starving. They try to silence them voice. They kill more than 270 journalists. Until a couple of days, there are more 3 journalists. We left them, and we failed this voice of Palestinian civilian kids and women time by time when they call us to stop this genocide. And our voice was not enough to break this and stop this genocide. We couldn't until today to bring one bottle of water or one piece of bread to Gazan people while they're still starving. And we're not sure how much American they are very interesting in humanity after we are experienced with their lies and propaganda. But today, like as I live since 3 years in Europe, I try to do many things. And I try to open also an organization for Palestinian refugees in diaspora. And I try to do a lot. But also I've been try to silence. I try to be uh, get down. I get many calls and many like let's say being arrested, being not allowed to move, being not allowed to take up papers because I work for Palestine. And even the organization I work with them, I receive many emails that they can't work no more with me because I'm against the European propaganda, which I call it, and complicity, but they call it that I'm trying to interrupt the official meeting, which been the biggest von der Leyen, president of the European Parliament, and Hajj Abdul Labib and other prime ministers. being like trying to lie to the own them people about humanity, which this is our right and every activist right to say you are complicit and you were working for your own interest with American. But this is also very dangerous because it's not much a voice, and the level of voice of people is not heard until today. But this is what we should do. We succeed, we get some target, we win, we have win-win, and we have a lot of victories. We get a lot of artists, doctors, students. We have a big community. We have a big support. Uh, we have enough now to start saying that we need the truth. We don't want to be complicit. We don't want to be this genocide written by the hostel by our name that been passing this and watch this and we still being silent. We don't want our kids in the future or anybody come to judge us that we never move for calling of humanity. But this is now need a lot of projects, need a lot of ways to work in different way and angles that to help Palestinian and help raise the voice of Palestinian, and also to get free of this colonization and a new systemic slavery which is belonged to few people around the world and for the American complicity and bureaucracy. This is the bureaucracy of American and capitalism have to be go down, and we have as a human and citizen to raise our voice and coming united together. Otherwise, we will be defeated and we will be like no heard, because if the voice coming around the world from the citizen, I guess people can stand for this. And today, Palestinian they need our voice, but not just Palestinian, but Palestinian, they are from the longest and oldest movement for liberation. But Palestine need us as a Palestinian been working with all movement around the world. Um, and they've been part of this movement for liberation in many places around the world. Today, we Palestinians need us. Tomorrow, we need to be also the voice for Congo, Sudan, and Americans and Vietnamese, Cuban. We have to raise these voices because this movement they've been for a long time, as they started also Nelson Mandela in South Africa, but they get them liberation, but they still need our voice, our support. And today, even though they are also coming with us hand by hand, shoulder by shoulder, to fight and defeat this colonization.
Yeah, I think it's very important. I never assume, Omar, that people know the context and the history of how Israel came about and the Zionist movement. So I'm just going to talk about that for 1 minute. But there's so much there to unpack: capitalism, imperialism, colonization. We've seen it in North America, Canada, Australia, and New Zealand. That to me is the template for what's happening in Gaza. It's displacement through replacement. It's genocide. It's ethnic cleansing. It's all those things that we associate with 300 years ago, not the 21st century. And you're right, for me personally, outside of the struggle for Irish reunification and an end to the British occupation in the north of Ireland, it's Palestine first and foremost. But it's not just Palestine. It is Burkina Faso. It is Chad. It is Mali. These countries that are fighting back against French neo-colonialism. So first of all, people fight a war of national liberation to remove the occupying force, but then they are still financially occupied. What's happening in the Congo goes back to the Belgian companies that were extracting the minerals, and they are funding the terrorists who are taking over parts of the Congo in order to keep that capitalist flow of raw materials and minerals for profit in Europe at the expense of the Congolese people. And we see what's happening in Sudan. We see the attacks of both Colombia and Venezuela. So imperialism, sadly, is alive and well. But just quickly to put things in context, because I always like to do this, Zionism, in my personal opinion, is a political ideology. It's a reaction to European anti Semitism, nothing to do with the Levant, nothing to do with West Asia, nothing to do with Palestine or Iran or Iraq or Syria or Yemen, which are not advocates of anti Semitism. In fact, Iran has the second biggest Jewish population in the world outside of Israel. And those people are determined to stay Iranian. They are happy to live in a country where they are accepted as equal citizens under the constitution within that country. So Zionism started in Basel in the 1880s with the first Zionist Congress. Now, their reaction was the European anti Semitism, nothing to do with West Asia. Then they looked at Madagascar, they looked at Uganda, they looked at Argentina, they looked at several different places. The British actually offered them Uganda, but then they decided for some historical, pseudo religious, although all these people were secular initially, to choose Palestine as a home. So Jewish people who suffered pogroms in Europe decided that they needed a land where they would feel safe and secure and have their own army and their own borders. Israel doesn't define its borders. Israel was born in terrorism. It exists through terrorism, and it's now expanding through terrorism into southern Lebanon, into southern Syria. So I just want to make people aware that what's happening now in Gaza could have been happening in Argentina, could have been happening in Uganda, could have been happening in Madagascar. And like nearly all the leaders of this terrorist state have been European. And all these people who are European colonizers, like the white Anglo Saxons who butchered and massacred tens of millions of people in America. That was like the British and the Europeans. South America was Spanish and the Portuguese. Africa, you had the Germans, the French, the Italians. These are all imperialist countries that have been destroying the global south in order to create wealth for the few in the global north. So it's important that people realize that the only reason Israel exists is because of European anti Semitism. And the real Semites that live in West Asia are the people born in the land of Sham, and that is the Palestinians and part of that wider kind of region, which the British call the Middle East, because that's where it is geographically from Britain, but we all call it West Asia. So, brother, I mean, we've seen the flotilla, we've seen I heard Tag Hickey being interviewed by George Galloway. I mean, there was an Irish captain of one of the boats, and he needed insulin because he was type 1 diabetic. They refused to give him the insulin, and when people started to remonstrate and demonstrate inside within this prison in the Negev desert, they told him that they don't have doctors for animals. Now, we are white, privileged Europeans, and we're told you won't have a doctor because you're an animal. And they actually came into the cells and they put the wee red dots on people's foreheads from the rifle with that intimidation that they were going to shoot people. And they came in with attack dogs. Now, this is a very, very, very small example of white privilege, white Europeans challenging this Zionist terrorist genocidal state. It's a fascist state. In fact, Palestinians are at the forefront of fighting 21st century fascism for people who have dehumanized them, demeaned them, debased them to the point where they can shoot 5-year-olds, where they can shoot pregnant women and claim 2-for-1 shots. We need to delegitimize the Israeli state, and we need to end this genocidal, nuclear powered, psychotic regime that has no value for life other than Jewish or Israeli life, in my opinion. So, firstly, what's your take on the flotilla? What did it achieve? What's the way forward? What do you think of the ceasefire that's currently underway, if indeed they have stopped bombing the people in Gaza?
Yeah, I guess this is also one of the big reasons that something is moving now, even in political way, even if it's not like what we want and our willing to do. But I guess the flotilla showing the world how it's the biggest community support, and they've been behind this flotilla, thousand and million of people marching in every city, which is making like hundreds of cities, like in Italy, to force the government. Even they not say it, but they were very fair of the move of the citizen. They see it in also in Spain, how the people being very angry about them complete government and how it was the act, the react of citizen, and they've been in many cities around the world and in Europe even. They see that like more than 1 million they've been in Yemen marching, even they've been attacking for many years. And this is one of the goals and one of the moves. They see the citizen in Iran, Iraq, even in Syria themselves. They feel and they fear that people they will never stop and this movement will grow. And now they try to play and they come over the wave of this movement to say about the peace talk. But as a Palestinian, we are annoyed and we are enough understand. We don't want more 30, 40 years of talks for peace as an Oslo. And again, we will back in the same point of two states or different. We want to liberate Palestine. We want free Palestine. And we want Palestine from the river to the sea with all people to live together. Because today than ever, all Jews around the world, they say we are not part of this political Zionist movement. We are with Jewish, Christian, Muslim, Palestinian, we want to live together. And some Palestinians, they say, yes, maybe before we've been from many years Jewish, but today we are Muslim, but this is not denied that we are Palestinian. We are not Zionists. We not have this propaganda of a promised land before 3,000 years, which these people, like from grandfathers, even they not speaking the Semitic language, they come and they claim they are have a place in Palestine, which you see exactly. It's not just Palestine, also around the Middle East. When it start Gaddafi want to make a central bank, being being France the first of the countries like pushing to killing and make a war against Libya, because they know this Middle East is worth than Europe, and they have the money and they could be richer than the propaganda of wars. Because if you look to the history, I guess everybody know it, but some people they don't know it, that American and Western, who they are starting all wars around the world. Palestinian they never create one war. Arabs they not been part of any wars from international war, second international war, Vietnam, Iraq, Afghanistan, Libya, Syria, Vietnam, South Africa, even in South Africa, they were not a war by military, but they were invading the economic of resources of African and South global. They were trying to take all these people and make people suffering more than €1 to work for an hour or 10 euros per day, and all the profit is going for this few people. They are trying to have this capitalism around the world and make people poor and poor. And even the profit of this, like more than 70%, it was going to Italian, French, and American, which now they trying to do against them, like the economic war, which the invasion, which is like the mothering of slavery system, how it's working in south of Africa, which these poor countries, they are very rich, but because of this invasion, because of this resources and mineral is going more than 50% to the European without they being partner of this, and make people more poor to work more less than 10 hours a day. Of course, this is a different slavery war and different invasion of economic to make more people not have them even voice and speak out.
Yeah, they tell people they're free. So you get rid of the colonizer, you get rid of the capitalist system, that they put in place in order to extract the wealth from the global south. So people fought for their freedom and their economic freedom and their personal freedom and their sovereignty. But then they pay them €10 a day. So it is slavery. People in Europe are paid 13, €15 an hour, not €10 a day. So they have left militarily but continue economically to deprive these countries of their wealth. And Libya is such a shining example, or was. And I've been to the Syrian Arab Republic on 5 different occasions. I saw people living in cohesion, cohabitation, people living in peace and harmony, and then destroyed by America, destroyed by Israel, destroyed by Britain, destroyed by the EU, and by extension, NATO. So, what's your fears, brother, going forward? I mean, I'm going to say this. I mean, the Ministry of Health in Gaza talks about 65,000 dead, but the Lancet talks about 600,000 dead. And Trump was interviewed or questioned by a journalist who said, how are you going to move 2.1 million people out of Gaza in order to create your Riviera on the Mediterranean? And he said something like, you mean 1.6? And that's not a slip of the tongue. He knows the facts. He knows how many people are really dead. We're talking about 1.6, 1.7 million people facing starvation, facing this genocidal onslaught, facing this ethnic cleansing. I have fears going forward, and I'm not even a Palestinian, brother. So, what's your fear for the West Bank, which they're now calling Judea and Samaria? What's your fears for Al Aqsa Mosque, and what's your fears going forward for the people in Gaza, your brothers and sisters?
Yeah, but maybe like between the words of Trump, you can found that he's approved this genocide.
Absolutely.
And out of this picture of genocide that always they say them on hostage, the hostages of these settlers being should be not speaking about them than to speak about thousands of Palestinian kids and women, and more than 1 million being arrested, and a lot of people been dying, and the situation of like a Palestinian cannot, because they are raising them voice and they still call them terrorists while they doing the mafia and tourists by force of classic jackets and approval of American and Western. And just not in Gaza, and everybody focusing and speaking Gaza while they are destroying the West Bank and destroying all the construction of Palestinian cities around, even under the occupation, which like the world is really asleep, and the world they don't know many about details. And after all of this, maybe you ask a young people and they still, I know Palestine. You mean Israel? I know they are Israel. They were against Palestine, and people they still not educate. And this is the things that we need the education and wars to be. It's very important, like to say things by it is the reality, and people have to understand. Yes, we move a lot, we change a lot of solidarity, but also I want to tell you the prime minister of the UK government, one, he said that he's recognized Palestine, and he said by his mouth that he should do it 50 years ago when they recognized Israel, ag- according to International United Nations resolution, which it's showing a more fail of international community, more complicity of this people they have a position, and this is have to be now hold to accountability and going more to open this international criminal court against these people trying to put Palestine far away from the front line and the real and serious situation, which now also more they bring into Tony Blair, which is a
Mm,
criminal, been living for many years free, than to hold for accountability to kill millions of Iraqi people, and they bring him to put him in the front of the media as a, and one of the rules and one of the diplomatic people, which is you see the complicity is still not a change, and you see this a few people they try to do them own version of peace, how they were a mafias working, and nobody asking them where, what, and how. And this is the rules that should to come back to the people and voices of citizens to say, no, we don't allow this. It's not by our name. And this time have to be really in different reaction of the people. Otherwise, this is how it's turned to be. They are not have a right even to speak about them own issues and to fight for them own issues because they've been silenced and they choose to be silenced. So this is the capitalism have to be down, but have to be a lot to work together. And this is international community and system and citizen. If they not have this voice, would be very hard to come back and come back to our humanity and our like civilian life and our voices back.
Thank you. That's our time up, really. We're kind of set on 30 minutes. So I'm just going to wrap things up and I'm going to maybe include some of the things you've said there. I mean, so many Western politicians are not only corrupt and complicit in the genocide that's happening in Gaza, but these people seem to be put into power with financial backing from people who are pro-Israeli, pro-Zionist. There seems to be also like blackmail going on in the background because some of these people are immoral, in my personal opinion, and that there is videos and there are compromising photographs of people in power, not just the politicians, but also influencers, business people, the whole upper cadre. I would include religious organizations in this. I don't know what hope you have for Western politicians going forward. The only thing I'd say in conclusion is more than 50% of Americans under 30 are now, if they're not anti-Zionist and pro-Palestinian, they now see what's happening, they now hear what's happening, and they now no longer trust their political representatives. So, October 7, 2023, unmasked America, unmasked the EU, unmasked Israel, unmasked NATO, and it's shown to the world that this capitalist imperialist hegemony hasn't changed from the 14th, 15th, 16th, 17th century right up to today. So I want to thank you for your time and your efforts.
Thank you very much.
People, you're welcome, brother. Let us know how people can follow you and what they can do to help raise the voice of Palestinians in Europe and indeed further afield.
Yeah, thank you very much. And we have to work together, brother. Like things have to move, and we have to secure the future for our kids. Because for us, maybe the time is out and pass, but like to work late than never, it's good, and late than late and more to be sleeping is good, and have people to use this voice and this movement then to come down, and we will never again have a movement of citizens, all this around the international community.
So how do people follow you then? Are you on Facebook, Instagram?
Yeah, it's like I have my account in Instagram and Facebook is Omar Karim, and also I have my own organization, it's Palestinian Refugee for Dignity, in Instagram and Facebook. So people can follow me and they can find all the details there.
And Omar, how do you spell your surname just so people can type it in correctly?
OmarKarem.
Perfect, brother. Salam, thank you so much.
We are together. Yeah. Thank
Always.
you. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you very much.